There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and the things which are very inherently related. One is probably best thing to kick things off with is why the company would want to use crypto to begin with. And another issue which is very tightly related to it is the legal risks related to securities laws in different jurisdictions. Most interestingly, though, that would be the US, which seems to be taking the most draconian stance on crypto. If the company, so if Anayan were to take the most bulletproof, legally speaking, the safest approach to raising their funds through the sale of crypto and then running this sort of system, then that approach of using the existing frameworks would, I would argue that it would render the use of crypto for something like that basically pointless. Because we know that SEC in the US is currently taking the stance of like the best way of investor protection is basically not allowing access to investment. I mean, investors are most protected when they can't invest. But however, there are things which the company can do to make that system useful, to make crypto useful for what they're planning to do, and at the same time to sort of manage the legal exposure, manage the legal risks. But let's for a minute chat about why what the token design could be and what aspects of the token design or the system design would affect their potential legal liability, if any. The questions they would probably want to ask themselves is, well, is the token going to yield any profits? Maybe there's going to be some staking involved, some way for the participants in the system to, well, earn some yield on it, which is, it's an aspect which kind of moves the system towards the unregistered security side of things, but it's not by itself, it's not too bad. I mean, there's plenty of examples of existing tokens which are fairly centralized and yield some revenues. They just there's ways to go about them. The second question is the value of the token going to be tied to the performance of any particular business? This is, if the answer is yes, that's really bad. You don't want that, because that basically makes it look, if the token looks like equity, it basically is like equity, and it will be seen as such in not only in the US. So they ideally they want to steer clear of that. So is the token going to be openly traded on exchanges? Is it going to be accessible to the public? And I think that's the answer to that is yes, almost by definition of crypto. If the answer is no, then it's basically, there's no point using crypto for something like that. Another point is, is the token going to have any utility other than the one directly related to like monetary aspects? Well, for example, if the holders of those tokens are going to be participating in governance, or as you've mentioned, there will be rewards for tournaments, and the tokens can be used in exchange for some tutorials, or maybe in exchange for access to events, yada yada. All of that is very good, because that essentially that gives the token utility, which is different from the utility of securities. It makes it look less like a financial instrument, and more maybe gamified as well. Like some gamification would be fantastic. Now, once they've designed the tokens, there's other things as well which are in play. So I would say there's the legal risks and practical risks are not always the same thing. And if the raise was fairly small, if the market cap of the token is not something crazy once it hits the market once, the token goes public, then the chances are it will be just so below the SEC radar that they just won't care about it. It'll be too expensive for them to prosecute or to do any action if there's not that much money involved in the project. Another obvious point that it has to be a real thing. It can't be a scam, and then it just changes everything. Another thing is how decentralized is the system. This is a really important point. In other words, if we were to remove Nyan from the equation, if the company ceased to exist tomorrow for whatever reason, would the system still continue to function? If the answer to that is yes, that's great, right? It means the system is not tied to any particular individual, and it is very difficult to make any one single entity or group of individuals responsible for anything. The system is sufficiently decentralized, and everyone who participates in it effectively is the owner. And the sale, well, coming back to that, was that done privately or is it a public sale? Private is generally safer for most obvious reasons. And yeah, well, in regards to the US, well, also if the one thing the company can do, and it's a pretty sensible step, is to exclude the US participation. And there's a number of things they can do. Well, IP block is it's the most basic thing they can do, but I would argue is not sufficient. KYC checks for investors, that's a good one. Maybe terms and conditions check, which says, like, if we find out that you're a participant or a holder of the tokens, that, or you're an investor who brings cash in exchange for those tokens, if we find out that you are a US citizen or a US resident, and we'll refund your purchase. And yeah, finally, like, how much of the Nyan ecosystem is actually going to be based in the US? Like golf clubs, is there going to be any vendors based in the US? Like, is there going to be any part of the system even touching that jurisdiction? Because yes, that may be found to be in breach of the securities laws in the US, but if it's so irrelevant for them, if it's so irrelevant to the US, that it might just ignore it.